Hello everyone, I'm Pacchia and this is Bloomberg Law on Demand. My guest today is Richard Walker, General Counsel for Deutsche Bank. He is fresh off a speaking engagement at the American Friends of Be Serious Law School event here in New York City, and he just is stopping by to let us in on some of the things they discussed. Richard, thanks so much for coming in today. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
You've had such a long career and seen so many different angles of the legal profession. Wanted to get a bit of a biographical rundown. Starting things off, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware, on the East Coast, and went to college in Connecticut, Trinity College, and then law school in Philadelphia, Temple Law School.
My younger brother went to Trinity.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Very good.
So what did your parents do for a living when you were growing up?
My mother was a homemaker, and my dad was an employee at the DuPont Company, which was, at the time, sort of defined Wilmington, Delaware. The DuPont family had a long history there, and the DuPont Company was the largest company in the city.
So what made you decide to go to Temple Law School?
Well, Temple Law School was almost a default. I had been drafted into the Army, and this was in the height of Vietnam and Cambodia. And by the end of the summer, I think right before the semester was to begin, I was excused from service because of a medical condition. And so I had to scramble very quickly to find a spot, and Temple was good enough to take me into their class. So about 2 weeks later, I was off on my way to law school.
So you graduated from Temple.
Right.
Then you spent some time in practice at Cadwalader, Wickersham, and Taft.
Yes.
What made you decide to leave practice and then go to SEC, where eventually you ran the enforcement division?
Right. I think the government always had and public service always had a real attraction to me. And over the years at Cadwalader, I looked at several opportunities. I looked at an opportunity at the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Solicitor General's Office in Washington, and the stars just seemed to align for the SEC. I saw an advert in the newspaper that the head of the New York office had left, and a friend of mine was there, and I threw my hat into the ring and was selected for the job, and that started my career.
And what was your area of practice at Cadwalader?
I was a litigator, so I did general commercial and securities related work.
And then in 2001, you left government to go work for Deutsche Bank.
I did.
Shortly before they turned into a public company. What was that like?
That's right. Well, it was very exciting. For me, I think of my career in sort of chapters. So the first chapter was private practice, and then the second chapter was government, and then the third chapter was something completely unknown to me, which was the private sector in-house, in a corporate role. And there was a lot of excitement at the time. Deutsche was very proud to have been the first company to list in the U.S. after 9/11, and this is something that the company was very proud to make that kind of a commitment. And in the years that I've been there, in the past 10 years, it has had an amazing record of growth and achievement, I think, both in the United States and internationally. So it's been a very exciting place to work.
Right. Now, certainly the aughts were a harried and frazzled decade. Lots of changes since 2001. What jumps out at you in the way your firm deals with the legal services industry?
I think we are creative and innovative. We do not look at things as many do traditionally, as saying a piece of work has to be done either by an in-house lawyer or an external lawyer. So we have been, I think, pioneers in terms of using nearshore models. So we've moved a number of attorneys to lower-cost nearshore locations. We have 3 of them, one in Mumbai, one in Birmingham outside of London, and Jacksonville, Florida. And we've also used outsourced providers, some in India who've done an excellent job for us, and some kinds of work as well. So I think we've been quite creative and innovative in terms of our ability to explore how we deliver legal services to our in-house clients.
Well, certainly the last 10 years were busy. The last 3 years were even more busy. The financial crisis and everything that came along with it changed a lot of things on the operations side for banks. How has that changed your corner of the firm?
We have been steadily engaged for the last 3 years. It's been a very, very difficult time. And part of it is structural changes within the bank that have resulted from changes in regulation and legislation. So there's a lot of things that we have to do structurally to help advise people how to exit one business, how to start up another business in accordance with regulations. And of course, there's been just an awful lot of regulatory inquiries, matters, investigations, litigation. That has been a cottage industry for the past 3 years as well. So we've had a very full plate of those kinds of inquiries as well.
if we could try to ply you for some free advice here, if you could put yourself in the shoes of someone running a large law firm, how would you recommend that they deal with changes like the ones you just outlined?
I think that law firms have to be very sensitive to the client's need. That sort of sounds like it's stating the obvious, but when a client Deutsche Bank is saying, look, we're looking to do things differently. We don't just want partners and associates delivering services the traditional way. We want you to explore working with us to try to find offshore or nearshore solutions. I think law firms shouldn't fight it. They should try to work with the client and help the client solve its problems.
Right. These sound like structural changes, though. When you're talking about outsourcing, when you're talking about changing the way business is done, you're talking about structural changes that need to be made to an industry that, quite frankly, is not always open to change. Are you finding firms are amenable to this new reality?
The answer is that yes, the best and the brightest are, because I think they recognize the opportunities that change can provide. But you're quite right. This is an affront or a threat to the traditional model that law firms are accustomed to. So some have adapted more quickly than others. I think others have simply felt, we'll wait it out over time. This is all going to go away. But my own view is it's not going to go away. I think this is going to result in permanent changes.
Well, I would imagine on the firm level, these changes have to trickle down to the individual personnel in law firms. What do lawyers need to do to prepare for the new world?
First of all, I think lawyers would benefit from having a rounder or broader education. So law school is a 3-year program historically taught in fairly traditional ways. And I think we are working with some. I think Bucerius is a great example. We send our in-house folks to a program run by Bucerius and St. Gallen, and they get a very rich, multi-dimensional education experience for a couple of weeks that exposes them to not just legal problems and legal problem solving, but market-related trends, economic trends, and I think this really enriches a lawyer's ability to add value in the real world rather than just being able to cite cases and do legal research.
Wanted to pick your thought on the legal industry. 3 years ago, there was a sense of panic running throughout the ranks. There was talk of wage depression. There was talk about large structural changes. Has the sense changed somewhat? There's almost a feeling out there that the worst has seemed to have passed.
I think that's right. I think certainly law firms took a lot of pain over a several-year period because certainly transactional business fell off. Law firms had to...
Firms are closing, layoffs, which were unheard of previously in the profession.
Absolutely right. In some painful instances, they had promised new positions to graduating law students and had to defer those positions for a couple of years. And I think that the firms have now retrenched. I think they've done and taken the hard medicine that they've needed to take, and they're streamlined now, and I think they're better prepared for the future. That's number one. And number two, I think the pace of activity has quickened too.
Want to close with your thoughts on the future for law students. I have to ask you, in light of all the changes we've seen in the industry, is the value proposition still there for a student going to law school? Would you make the same decision if faced with it today?
I think the value proposition is definitely there. I think students going to law school now have to think in different ways than perhaps I did when I went into law school, because they're going to have to think more about the kinds of choices of things they want to do when they leave. It's not just going to be, a law firm job. I think they're going to be scarcer, and so students have to be prepared to do other and different things, which I think, frankly, can be a challenge and exciting.
Or get other degrees.
Exactly.
That's a lot of education.
It is.
Richard, let's leave it there for now. I want to thank you so much for coming in today. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Thank you. My pleasure.
That's Richard Walker. He is the Global General Counsel for Deutsche Bank. If you'd like to learn more about the issues we just discussed, go check out our offerings on BloombergLaw.com and on the Bloomberg Terminal. I'm Pacchia. Thanks for watching.